I want to give you guys a little bit of what happened on the Sunday shows with respect to a lot of the issues, particularly tariffs. And so I want to kick this off with Howard Lutnick. And he's explaining what's going on with respect to some of these tariffs and how they're going to apply, because the media was saying that there were these pauses and whatever. So let me have Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, explain where we are in terms of tariffs and exemptions. Take a look.
The notice that went out Friday night saying that electronics, a wide range of electronics, including smartphones, including components used to make microchips, that these are now exempt from the reciprocal tariffs. Why that move?
Well, remember, those products are going to be part of the semiconductor sectoral tariffs, which are coming. So you're going to see this week there'll be a register in the Federal Registry. There'll be a notice put out. That is different types of work. So we're going to do that. We did that in autos. The president's going to do it for pharmaceuticals, and he's going to do it for semiconductors. So all those products are going to come under semiconductors, and they're going to have a special focused type of tariff to make sure that those products get reassured. We need to have semiconductors. We need to have chips, and we need to have flat panels. We need to have these things made in America. We can't be reliant on Southeast Asia.
Now, here's the thing that's interesting. The way that it was reported was, oh, semiconductors and smartphones are all exempt. And you heard Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, say, no, they're reclassifying. Now, I'll tell you this, and just so everyone, because I've seen some people say stuff. I went out literally Thursday, and I was like, I needed a new iPhone. So everyone thinking, like, I shoot a lot of stuff, as you guys see on social media and for the show. And I was like, okay, I need one. I might as well get ahead of the tariffs. And then they put this pause on there, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was silly that I bought it that quick. But then I realized, hey, still a smart move. You got some time if that's what you're getting at. But I needed this. And sure enough, as Lutnick was saying, the media was trying to make the case that, oh, everything got exempt. No. That's not entirely what happened. They're just reclassifying these into another sectoral, which is electronics, and that will have its own set of tariffs. So if you go out and you wanted to get something ahead of them, it's still a smart move. But more than anything, and this is what I was glad he made the point on. If you guys have heard me before, you get this. This is not just about how much something costs or not. This is about getting things back made, because our defense industrial complex relies on that. If we have to outsource what we need, all the stuff, whether it's for national security or health emergencies, we're in a bad place. And he made a great point about why this is a national security issue. Back to the Commerce Secretary. Listen to him.
How concerned are you, and are you prepared to defend this in court? As you know, there's already at least one court challenge to the constitutionality of these tariffs.
The president knows the law. The president's general counsels know the law. They understand this, that Congress has passed laws that gave the president the ability to protect our national security. We need to make medicine in America. If you don't think that's national security, you're not thinking it through. We need to make semiconductors in America. We need steel and aluminum in America. We need to manufacture in America. If we just run gigantic trade deficits and sell our soul to the rest of the world, eventually we are going to be the worker for the rest of the world. We're going to be the thinker for the rest of the world, but they're going to manufacture. And if someday they say, gee, we're not sending it to you, we'll be nothing. So I think the president has national security in mind, and he's here to protect America. We need to reassure these things, and we all know it.
Now, you need to understand that I had a contractor come by the house this morning. And like a lot of people, he obviously knew who I was. And he said, so let me ask you, what do you think? And I said to him what I've said to you guys before. The easy answer is to do nothing. Most politicians love the easy answer, don't they? Do nothing. The hard stuff comes at a cost politically. And President Trump's willing to pay it in the short term. But guys, you have to understand this is so critical. We cannot rely on the rest of the world. We are supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And when you have to go hat in hand to other countries, say, could we please have some medicine? Can we please have some aluminum and steel to build stuff? You're not the world's greatest superpower anymore, or at least you're vulnerable. So when do we want to tackle this? Because we can keep waiting until we've attrited all of our industrial base, or we can start fighting again, bringing it back, bring it home, making policies that incentivize it to occur here. And I get it. Not everything's going to come back home, and not everything's going to be a U.S. job, but maybe there's some machine learning that can still build it here. A lot of cars I get, and a lot of the industrial stuff that our Defense Department relies on, maybe won't be built entirely by human. Maybe it's machine learning, human learning that allows it to happen, but it's still us building it here, manufacturing it here. That's the key thing to remember. We can't lose everything that matters to other countries and then be reliant on them and hope that in a time of emergency, they're willing to take care of us. No one wants that. You always want to protect yourself and prepare for yourself. Even if it's, having flashlights, you don't want to go, oh, I'm sure the neighbors have them. If the power goes out, someone will take care of me. No, you prepare for an emergency. You buy a first aid kit. We all do it in our daily lives. The president's willing to stand up for us, though, and that's what's important. But he also went on and talked about how the market access piece, and I love this about it. Take a listen to him talking about why it matters for our farmers.
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to realize that what President Trump is doing in his vision and his leadership is to completely realign the world economy, but in so doing, put America first and therefore American farmers first. Shannon, for decades, the way that we have been treated in this country, and especially our farmers and ranchers, is absolutely stunning. We have been living under a tariff regime, but it has been the regime of other countries. Japan with a 700% tariff on our rice, Brazil with an almost 20% tariff on our ethanol, which I know you were in Kansas, probably talking to some ethanol corn farmers. The EU takes less pork with 450 million people than does Honduras with 10 million people. I mean, it is one thing after another. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize how egregious it was until I took this job. I mean, I've heard President Trump talk about it for a long time. I was in his last White House as his domestic policy chief, so I was somewhat aware. But once I took the job as agriculture secretary and really began to dig in, the way our ag producers are treated across this world, both with high tariffs and with non-tariff barriers like unsubstantiated science claims, is just, it's egregious. So the president is working to fix it. I don't know that any other political leader in our lifetime would have ever been able to do what he is doing.
So the point that I think that Brooke Rollins there, our ag secretary, is making is it's not just the tariff numbers. So they charge, more for our products to get in. So it's like if you make pork in the United have pigs, or cattle in the United States and try to export them, they might have a 30 or 40% tariff. But the non-tariff barriers that she's talking about are equally as important. I've said this before, but half the time when you meet with like pig producers, they'll tell you that there are parts of the pig that we don't eat in America, but they'll eat in other places. But if they start to deny our ranchers and farmers access because they make up stuff, you have to wait at customs for 2 weeks. There's a bunch of GMO, genetically modified, organic type of things that keep them. Then those are non-tariff barriers. They don't actually allow you in, and we need to fight those equally as tough. But for so many people in America, that's a huge market that they can't get access to. And you heard her talk about there's small countries like Honduras that take more than the entire EU. That's because the non-tariff barriers prevent it. And I think it's important to understand. It's funny because it wasn't just her that made the case, but Peter Navarro actually made the same point. Take a listen to what he said.
So this is unfolding exactly like we thought it would in a dominant scenario. What's going on here is we start with the observation. I don't think you would disagree with me at all. The world cheats us. They've been cheating us for decades. They cheat us with tariffs, higher tariffs. But more importantly, they cheat us with the so-called non-tariff barriers. It's the VAT taxes, the dumping, the currency manipulation, the technical barriers that keep our autos out of Japan, the agricultural barriers that keep our pork out of Australia or Europe. They're doing that to the tune of $1.2 trillion of wealth a year that we transfer now abroad. And $18 trillion of wealth since we started running deficits. You know how much $18 trillion of America that could buy? So that's the problem we're grappling with. So we have a strategy here where the president says we're going to charge them what they charge us. And the analytical issue is it's easy to calculate the tariff differential, but the non-tariff barriers are so much higher. So that's what we set, knowing full well that a lot of countries would come right to us and want to bargain.
And that's what they're doing. That's what these countries are doing. You've heard over 75 countries saying, we're queuing up because we want to deal with you. We understand we've gotten away for a long time. And I talked about this with Kevin Hassett. I mean, think about it. For the longest time, our trade policy wasn't based off good business. It was based off soft power diplomacy. The rise of the Soviet Union, not saying, hey, we'll cut you a deal. We'll give you all this access to the U.S. market if you align with us against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union fell, folks, decades ago. And yet we're still not getting treated fairly. So why not start to fight for it? And these countries have been getting a free ride for the longest time. And you guys all know this. I mean, think about it. The speed limit. You go down the road, no one ever enforced it. And suddenly there's a cop there like, whoa, what's going on? When did this happen? Or the friend that's taking you out to dinner forever suddenly moves away and you go, hey, now I got to pay for my own lunch. I get it. These countries have been taking advantage of us for years and they think it's just fine. I don't blame them. President Trump says it's not their fault that they got a good deal. But at some point, the soft power rationale, because we were trying to use it as a cudgel to the Soviet Union, is gone. I mean, I can't believe we're doing this. And the other thing is, there was just a mindset of, hey, we'll allow China to enter the World Trade Organization. And when they become a member of the WTO, they'll see the light and everything will happen. That's been the mentality. You remember John Kerry saying, oh, they're going to totally recognize that the climate, if climate change is good for them. Are you kidding? They have such a bad track record when it comes to understanding how China motivates. And Kevin Hassett, who we just had on the show, was on over the weekend and explaining this. Take a listen.
These policies, which the president successfully enacted in the first term, are going to increase the demand for labor, increase wages, up by almost $6,500 in the first 3 years of the Trump administration. And so what it means is that even if you accept the naysayers' perspective on what might happen to the price of a cup of coffee, that the person walking into the coffee shop is going to have a lot more money. In the 15 years after China entered the WTO, real wages went down. So wages went down by more than prices, as we thought these cheap goods were going to revolutionize America. In fact, it was the opposite. Welfare went down. We had Angus Deaton write a whole book about the deaths of despair that were related to this. And so I think we're very optimistic about the fact that people are going to have more money in their pockets and that they're going to have a higher standard of living.
So, look, I'm the first one to admit I got a D in economics, okay? But I do recognize that you can't look at one thing in isolation. And the fact of the matter is, since China joined the World Trade Organization, as Kevin Hassett put out, yes, oh, wow, they're sending us cheap stuff. So in theory, you should buy more stuff. But they're driving down the cost of wages because they're paying someone like 50 cents to work all day. We're charging minimum wage here. It's like $17 in a lot of states, $20. So what happens is labor costs get driven way down. They're depressed. So in theory, when you look at the big picture, you're actually not able to buy as much. Your purchasing power doesn't go as far. Yeah, you're getting cheap goods, but you're not making as much as you could wage-wise because they're driving the cost of that down too. No one wants to talk about that. But the bottom line, and this is the bottom line, and Navarro alluded to this. By the way, I was over at the White House on Friday. I got to see Peter, chat with him. I talked with Pete Hegseth, chat with him for a little while, chat with Tulsi, put a bunch of the stuff on my Instagram if you want to see. It was a fun day. I mean, literally, some days you bump into everybody. Got to hang out with Seb Gorka. I'll mention that, I think, in a minute. And his team, they just come off a great rescue. I digress. The bottom line, and Peter Navarro, we had a chance to chat about this a little on Friday. But he made the point about what is the end goal. And the end goal is to get these other countries to come to us and to queue up and say, hey, okay, we get it. We've gotten a free ride for a long time. But the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer addressed that this weekend as well. Let me just show you that.
I'm considering that we have 90 days before April 2nd, we were already having many talks with other countries because everyone knew tariffs were coming. This was not some secret. Everyone knew. And so we already were in conversations with several countries. It's going to be up to these countries to come to the table, continue coming to the table, and make these kinds of offers. The reality is we're working around the clock, day and night, sharing paper, receiving offers, and giving feedback to these countries with respect to how they can better achieve reciprocal trade with the United States.
But 90 days could be a rolling deadline, is what I hear you saying.
Well, I would not say that. In the president's cabinet meeting last week, he was asked about this, and he said, well, we'll see. My goal is to get meaningful deals before 90 days, and I think we're going to be there with several countries in the next few weeks.
By the way, you got 75 lined up. There's 170 trading partners that we have. Think about that. What if he gets 50? That's still 50 better than we've ever had. 20! Heck, 2! And we know for a fact, like South Korea, Vietnam, Israel are all lined up, publicly. And I think the EU has shown a willingness to deal as well. But had he not done anything, nothing would have happened. And it was funny because I read this the other day to Kevin Hassett when we had him on the show. But just remember what President Trump told Kevin Hassett. And I want to read this to you again because the media is like, I don't know where this strategy is coming from and I don't know what his goal is. Listen to President Trump himself and what he told Kevin Hassett. He said this: if I was having trouble closing a real estate deal, I would sue the guy if he didn't give me what I wanted. A threat would have had no effect. So just saying, I'm going to sue you, no effect. Everybody can just say that. But this is him again. But if I sued him the day before closing and then offered to withdraw the lawsuit as part of the deal, they almost always signed. They knew you meant it. That's what President Trump told Kevin Hassett in the first term. And he's doing it again. Just saying, everyone goes, well, why couldn't we have just negotiated for a few minutes and not had to go to do all this extreme stuff? Because no one will do anything. It's the same thing that he said in real estate. Just saying it isn't going to do it. When you slap the tariffs on, they freak out. Everybody wants to say, oh, if President Trump had just done what we've always done in the past, just say that you're potentially going to do it. You not think other leaders haven't tried that and nothing happens? Trump's a totally different animal and they get it. The Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, they don't know what to do with the guy. He's unpredictable when it comes to national security. And it's the same thing with trade. They worry, so they come to the table, say, let's make a deal. It works. You may not, or your cousin or your uncle may say, oh, can't we just do without this? Sure, and get nothing. There's a rationale to all of this. He uses it to get what he wants, and when he say he, it's on behalf of us. We win. Our country wins. Look at all of the investment that we've talked about. Almost $1 trillion, SoftBank, Apple, Honda, Hyundai, Taiwan Semiconductors. I've said this week after week. It doesn't just happen. Leadership matters. Tactics matter. But here's the bigger political thing about this. The Dems love to talk about, oh, this is reckless and this is what's happening. But when President Obama talked about tariffs, the Dems were behind him. Listen to President Obama talk about tariffs. Take a look.
The argument is, number one, that's the biggest market in the world. Number two is those countries are already selling to us. I keep on pointing out there are a lot of Japanese cars here in the United States, almost no U.S. cars in Tokyo. Number three is that if we don't write the rules, China will write the rules out in that region. We will be shut out. American businesses, American agriculture, that will mean a loss of U.S. jobs.
Oh, so when Obama says it, it's different, right? I show you that for a very good reason because the media won't. When Obama did it, it was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. But by the way, when Obama said it, it was decades after Trump first said it. The clips are rolling around now from him on Oprah, various other shows talking about getting ripped off from Japan and other Asian countries. Trump's been on this since the 80s. No one had a problem with it then, did they? It's just funny. It's just, tells them, oh, well, what about when Obama said it or did it? Well, that's different because it wasn't Trump. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.